Today's a bit of a different video. We're talking about men's health, prostate and testicular cancer. And this is an annual event called Movember, started a few years back, about raising awareness. And men in particular don't really talk about their mental health, but it's something that I think has become more and more prevalent over the last few years, mainly since COVID as well, and really escalated the need to not only talk about it, but be open about sharing these things. So there is a link in the description. Feel free at any point to go on there and donate. Funds, 100% of that will go to the charity. And today I'm joined by two team members, both Sulik and Jack, and we're here to talk about mental health, maybe how it shows up for us, and why it's so important to talk about these things. I think there's a really good point though, is that testicular cancer is most common in men between 15 and 35, which is our demographic, like all three of us. I've got it written here that lumps, swelling, differences in size, and 4% of testicular lumps are cancerous. But like this reaction, it is like, it's a weird thing to be talking about. I mean, we're in the office with people literally just there, so it adds to it. But the reason I think it's interesting, the response, is that it is a weird thing to talk about. I mean, probably don't go around to guys asking, when's the last time you touched your balls? But it is really important, and something even as that sort of went on, I was like, how often do I? Right? From that context of like actually having a health check, probably a good few months in reality. It's not
something that you forefront in your mind, is it really?
Nah, you're like having a shower, quick wash, and it's like, you're not really thinking about it. But apparently you are meant to check every month and have like a proper good feel. So
how would you know?
Well, so apparently the most common things are swelling. So you're like, are you noticing like a big disparity in like a size difference, or like small lumps? And I think the scary thing sometimes, I had it when I was like 15, when I was like having a feel around all of that, and I was like, oh, is that? And you start getting psychologically, oh my God, is this something? But apparently it's quite noticeable if you go through it. But
have you ever had a professional health check?
Yeah, I have actually. So when I had that scare, and it was all psychological, I was like, oh my God, like this is terrifying. And like my dad died of cancer, as you guys know, and he died of bowel cancer. And so when like it's probably heightened in me that like, oh my God, am I going to get it, all of that. So I went to a doctor. It turns out it was absolutely nothing. It was just a just growing as a teenager and stuff like that. So no, nothing around it. But I think the two things for me at the time were, number one, it makes you feel immediately better just being told by a professional, but also that it wasn't scary at all. I don't know about you, but the idea of going to the doctors in general is just, nah, don't really go, like I'll deal with it. Yeah. But actually it's like, look, we can think we're invincible sometimes, but the stuff internally that's going on, it can have a really big impact.
Did they get the gloves on and everything?
Yeah, they did wear gloves whilst touching my balls. Yeah.
Our reaction just highlights that it's probably not spoken about as much as it should be anyway.
Yeah, to be fair, like it's not a conversation I've ever had with my friends before, just like, oh, do you do this, It's probably something probably I should look at more, really.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, I mean, look, how far do you go with these things? Because it's like, like you're not going to be like walking around every little bit of your body and all of that. But I do think like with testicular cancer being so prevalent in young men, like I really think it's something to be thinking about and taking seriously. And like, even if we're talking and laughing now, because it's not laughing going, ha ha, that's stupid to do it. It's laughing because it's like, that's a bit of an awkward conversation. Yeah. But that just says it, and as I've got it down here that testicular cancer has a survival rate of over 95% of men diagnosed, and surviving for at least 10 years if it's caught early. And I think that's really important, where it's like, even if this conversation where some people watching have gone, this is fucking weird, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter, maybe you're a mum watching this, and maybe that one conversation causes one person to check that maybe does need to get checked, and it saves some lives. So
I mean, 9 out of 10 people surviving is a pretty high figure. So
yeah, well,
the more awareness we can raise, the better.
19 out of 20. So 95%. Which is really high, and like, you know, so when my dad died, again, it was from bowel cancer, and they reckon that he had it for about 10 years before. And what really, I feel so fucking... Yeah, he had it, like, when he got diagnosed, they reckon he had it for about 10 years, and I felt so fucking angry at him. And it's really weird, because the reason I was angry is that he had some symptoms. So like when he was passing, like, you know, he's having a poo, wiping, there'll be blood, and like, be like, I probably wiped too hard, you know, that sort of thing. And so there were signs that would be like, maybe I should look at this, but just carried on. And like, that, as a son going through this, and going through losing his dad, it's always been in my head, what if he did go to the doctors 5 years before, 1 year before? And I'll never know that answer, and it's not worth exploring, because the reality is I can't go back in time. But for a simple another minute in the shower having a check, it makes a difference. So prostate cancer is the next one. Here's the fact: prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men. I actually didn't know that. I did not know that. Holy shit, with 1 in 8 men being diagnosed.
Wow. Really? So out of this office, at least 2 of us got it.
Well, now or in the future, yeah. Yeah, well, cancer in general is 1 in 2 people now. So 50% of us will be impacted by cancer in our lives. That doesn't mean that you will directly get it, but somebody close to you. And it's like there's a 50-50 chance, and that unfortunately is just getting worse. But yeah, 1 in 8. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I've had some family members that had prostate cancer.
Really?
Yeah. Luckily survived and like been, you know, treatment and like being fine after that. But yeah, it's still pretty scary, isn't it? Like,
do you know what prostate cancer is?
Yeah.
And it's interesting actually, because I actually had a conversation about prostate cancer about 6 months ago to a young lad, that family member and all that, and he couldn't tell me where the prostate is. He didn't have a clue about it, because like, I guess maybe at a certain age you find out more about it, but it's like, I don't remember learning about this stuff at school or anything like that.
definitely not.
Is it true that it's prevalent in older people mostly, in the older generation?
So I've got it here, age, risk increases with age, especially for men over 50.
Yeah.
And if like...
Nearly there then, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. At 33, I'm aging rapidly. But the thing is, it's like genuinely, even from 20 to 30, I notice a genuinely massive difference in how my body's responding to things. So like when you're 18, you can just eat anything, can't you? And it's like you don't get fat, all of that. It felt like on my 30th birthday, that's it, everything changed. Obviously not reality, but like if you think naturally as you're getting older, your body is having to work harder and harder to break down the things that it could break down easily 5 years ago. And so how does this relate to younger people? I think if we naturally abuse our body when we're younger, but we feel the impacts when we're older. So obviously health is such a big thing.
I agree, completely.
Symptoms to watch out for. Do you know what to look out for?
In prostate cancer.
Not a clue.
Is it passing urine uncontrollably, or something along those lines, where you can't control your bladder as well? Because I think the prostate is a gland, isn't it, that expands, and it's near your bladder. So as it expands, it presses onto your...
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading notes. I'm not a medical doctor, but this is interesting. So it says that, yeah, needing to pee more often, especially at night, apparently, which is why like older people, where they're getting older and everything's swelling up and stuff like that, why they needed to wee more often. So that's leaning like the prostate. Difficulty starting to pee, a weak flow, blood or in urine or semen as well. But it's interesting because I think that like if there were suddenly blood in your wee or semen, you'd start to notice that pretty rapidly. Yeah. But I think needing to pee more, I don't know if I'd notice that.
Yeah, it'd be probably a gradual thing that would come like slowly, wouldn't it? Potentially.
So apparently what we're meant to do is, again, with all of these, it's like preventative measures. Early detection is really key. So screening is especially crucial for men over 50, which I'd say the average person who watches this channel is going to be between that 40 and 60 years old. So yeah, regular screening, what regular is, I think, talk to your doctor on that. But even for us, you know, like there's zero downside of having that sort of thing checked. It's just like, even if, I don't know, even at my age 33, maybe if I did it once every 5 years, and it's like, you don't think about these things, and this is the big thing. I touch wood, never have cancer, but it's like, if I do, I'd like to know about it as close to today as possible. And I think that's the big thing, like all of this is about early detection and what you can do to stop this in the future. So I want to move on to mental health. I think this is the big part of what Movember is around. It's a big focus on the mental health stuff. So 3 out of 4 suicides in the UK are by men. It is actually the highest death rate of men in the world. Is suicide. So
It's the highest killer of men under like 40 or 50 as well, isn't it?
yeah, it's the biggest cause of death for men under 45. So how's your mental health?
Inside of work?
No, genuinely, like holistically, like if
At the moment, for me, pretty good. Probably the best it's been for a long time, but I think as life you go through seasons, don't you? And like sometimes you might go through like I don't think I've ever been like depressed, but I think I've definitely gone through seasons of being down and feeling like I can't get out of a little scenario, even though maybe it's small to some people, but it's just like the constant. But at the minute, mine's really good, luckily.
Yeah.
Yourself?
I'd say I'm in a state of running away right now. If I'm real with it, I notice these patterns about myself, that when I struggle a bit more mentally, I work more, and it's my safety blanket. So if I'm really real with this, the last 2 weeks, well, the last couple of months, I've been not sleeping much, like 2-3 hours a night sort of thing. And it's interesting, I was with the team the other day, and Phoebe said, you messaged me at 3 in the morning, and I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. But I was like, that's such an example of what I do. So if I'm honest, I think I probably need to stop and ask myself that question deeper, because right now I feel I'm running away from stuff mentally. Day to day, I genuinely feel great. Like, I feel really great, and I think that's probably why I'm doing this running away stuff, where it's like, keep busy, have fun, make a joke, be present with people, all of that. And it's like really, actually probably struggling a little bit right now.
Well, if you say you're running away, but for me, it sounds like you're going full steam ahead towards problems. Maybe if you're working more. Because if you was running away, surely you would be like...
running away from facing what's going on in here.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
And when I'm looking here, I'm keeping myself busy. So I don't know if you've ever done this. So it's in trading, it's called mean reversion, right? So on a trade, when it goes really high, like Bitcoin right now is going, and when it turns, it will go like that. And it's like cycles, so everyone gets hyped and everyone talks about, oh my God, should we be in it? It's like, you know that's when not to go in it. And it's like, so I saw you looking at each other then, don't do it, lads, all right? But it's like, this happens repeatedly, and then that's mean reversion. But you'll probably notice it with your mental health. So if when you've been in your low moments and you put yourself in an environment where there's loads of people around you and you have to put a smile on your face and you're making that, you're exhausted, and then as soon as you're, see you later, mate. And it's almost like you get home, I don't know about you, in the car, and it's like, hits you. That's mean reversion.
I mean, it's amazing that you can acknowledge that, because I think that's the first step of, well, realisation is the first step to treatment in anything. So, especially with mental health, the fact that you can acknowledge that and talk about it openly is really important.
Yeah. Well, it is, like, I think if we're not willing to talk about it, it's like, if you think about like the world that we're in, there's so much movement, there's so much pressure on us to grow up faster than, like, if we went back 50 years, like we did not need to grow up the same. I'm not saying it's easier or harder, but then with social media, you've got to look a certain way, you've got to be a certain way. Like if you're a guy and you've got a little bit of body fat, it's like, oh, you know, if you're a girl and, you know, whether it's boobs, bum, face, Botox, whatever it is. So like, you compare yourself against the Joneses, but the Joneses used to be the next door neighbor. Now it's everyone that's on your algorithm.
Billions of people.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think talking about this stuff is really important. To go back to your question, genuinely I feel pretty good right now, but I know that tomorrow I could feel really shit. And the difficulty for me as the leader in the business is that sometimes it's not that it's not relevant, but especially working with the sales team, going around, morning guys, I feel fucking shit today. So here's what we're getting. It's like, cool, you can't do that. And I think this is the hard thing about mental health. I don't think you need to pour it in all of your environments, but I do think you really need to take care of yourself. So one thing I do is I see a therapist every week, have done for the last 2 years. One of the best things I've ever done. Best things I've ever done.
What does that do for you?
It's an outlet. She's not my friend. She, like, I know it kind of feels like that sometimes now after 2 years, but it's like, she's not my friend. There's no doubt judgment as a human being, but I can just talk openly. Sometimes it's venting. Sometimes, by the way, the best thing that I've had from a therapist is actually when I'm feeling amazing and they take me from a 9 to a 10. And so it's like unlocking your levels is how I see it. And sometimes I'm at a level 1 and I just want to get to a level 3 and just feel okay. Sometimes I'm a 9 out of 10 and it pushes me further.
Is it that you feel that you can't speak to your friends and family as directly as you can with the therapist, and you can't open up as well as having someone separate that's not going to necessarily judge you?
Do you know what I struggle with is I've got a really fucking good group of people around me. Like, I don't have many friends, but the friends that I do have, I might not talk to them for a month, but I know I could call them and they'll do stuff for me. Family, incredible. Like, you know what it's like at work. We got a good clan here, and it's like, I think, and maybe I'm not saying women don't have this, but from a man's perspective, sometimes it can feel like our job is to take burden, not give it. I am the shoulder that people cry on. I don't want to be that person. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just how I feel. I don't want to be the burden on my family. I don't want to be a burden on my friends. And also, sometimes I just want to talk and just leave it there. And it's like, so when I have my therapy call, she ain't fucking messaging me 2 days later, how you feeling? That's the shit I don't like. It's just like, I'm very much, if I want to talk about something, I will talk about it and leave it on the table there. But I certainly probably need to make more effort in talking about it. And I think actually, when I've got into dark spaces, I have been pretty cool, just being like, I need to talk to somebody on that. But what about you, Sally? How's your mental health?
Mental health's been really good recently, to be honest. I came out of the dark side, really. So my granddad passed away last year. A few things had happened. It's the first family bereavement I've had. Luckily, I went travelling around South America for 6 months, so that completely took my mind off it. Came back to work, reality hit me hard, still missed him, but I'm at a point now where actually my life moves on with or without him, so it's hard to open up about these things and speak to people, because one thing I did is suppress my negative emotions, and stress is a leading indicator of many things, many other mental health issues, physical health issues, but suppressing your negative emotions ultimately leads to stress, can even lead to cancer. So I think it's all interconnected, and it's good to open up to someone instead of just suppressing it, because that is probably the worst thing you can do.
Was it old age with your granddad, or?
No, it was a stroke.
Okay, cool.
Poor lifestyle habits.
Yeah, similar.
I can not to.
Yeah.
I think as well, when he's like a grandparent, I lost my grandma a few years ago, and like when she actually died, I just kind of felt numb, didn't really feel anything, and it's not until like a year and a half, 2 years later, you actually start unpacking that stuff, and because at the time it has to be strong for your mum or other family members who are going through it, and then now you might maybe 2 years later it just hits you out of nowhere when you're not really expecting it to anymore, and you have all these memories flooding back. And
Grief is an interesting one, and when a really hard moment when I lost my dad was probably about 5 years later, and it was somebody pretty close to me, and I was really, like, sometimes I could talk about my dad like nothing. Sometimes I could mention my dad, I'm like, you know, welling up, because obviously I miss him greatly. And this person that was close to me went, mate, it was 5 years ago, like, you know? And I was like, what the fuck? Now, they didn't mean it in that thing, and like, something I say to people is grief doesn't go away, it just changes shape
Yeah.
over time, and it turns up in ways that you can't understand. And another reason I like talking to a therapist is they're trained to understand these links a lot of the time. So I'll tell you one that was an interesting thing. So my dad left my mom when I was 3 months old, and then he died when I was 13. And how that turned up is abandonment issues, which is like, it's maybe hard or maybe very easy to see that. And so interestingly, how it showed up at work for me is when somebody left, could be like for perfectly legitimate reasons, setting up on their own.
Take it personally.
Honestly, like on my face I'd be like, great. Like, no, inside I'd be destroyed and like in tears over it, because I made it like, why am I not, like, you know, like not asking myself exactly these questions, but it'd be like, why aren't I good enough? What did I do wrong? Did I push them away? Did I not make it good enough? And it's like, it's so important to understand that, like, even if your mental health is chemical, you know, say chemical depression and things like that, often there is causation to it. And actually it's a lot of effort sometimes to go, what exactly am I feeling? Because it's the easy answer is I feel sad.
Yeah.
I feel numb. Like that's the one that I feel. I'm angry. It's like, okay, well that's the output emotion, but why are you feeling that? And then go back and unpack that. So when's the last time you cried?
I can't remember the last time.
I don't know. I can't remember. Probably not that long ago. To be fair, I more cried now for like happy stuff. To be fair,
Huh?
but,
It is happiness, that's a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good way to cry.
This year?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What about you,
I
Sally?
didn't get a P45, so I cried in happiness. Myself, I think it was when my granddad passed away last year. I don't think I've cried since then, which is good because I haven't had a reason to. But also, I feel like now, with that experience, I know that if I open up and allow myself to cry, whenever something negative does happen in my life, it will help me heal a lot quicker.
Yeah.
How would you feel about that? Would you say crying helps you if you've cried recently due to anything?
Crying is one of the best things you can do. I know this sounds so weird. So, I mean, I'm still like a lad, egotistical, you know, like we all are. I've got my ego, my bravado and stuff like that, and I really struggle to lower it. But each time I do lower this guard and all of the shit that comes with it, I always feel so grateful for it. I feel grateful to myself that I've been brave enough, because I used to see being vulnerable as weakness. Don't know why. So you're just fucking crying for man up, you know, like especially being like man up, get it done. And so I'm always proud of myself for being brave, and it always shocks me how much support I've got from people. So the last time I cried was probably about 2.5 months ago in front of all you guys, and like
I was welling up when that happened to me.
yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like that for me was such a blessed moment.
Was it relief? Like a moment of relief? Or?
I didn't even mean to cry. It was obviously, you guys know about it. Somebody did me dirty, let's say, and I was pure business mode. This is just a negotiation. This is another sell. It's like I have no place for emotions here. Deal with it. Boom, boom. And I was a fucking robot. And even telling you guys, I was like, do you know what? They deserve to know what's happened, because I want it to come from me, you know. And it's like, right, telling you guys. And I was like, right, this is what I'm gonna say. This is gonna, right, everyone, fuck off now. Let's go. And it's like, when I started, it was like, yeah. And it's like what was so nice is the fact that you know, you saying that, and it's like, why would you well up over it? Because you care.
I think sometimes you can put yourself in that person's position. Just think like, how would I feel if someone? Like,
Yeah.
I just think like if one of my friends did that to me, or someone I consider a friend, how would I react? I'd be absolutely distraught. You know, it's not about the money or anything like that. It's about like the personal relationship of just being ripped apart that would just rip me apart, I think.
Yeah.
I could see it on like your tonality and your voice, you know. It completely broke you a little bit.
It did. It absolutely did. And I felt so grateful, because I don't think that's caused me any angst after, if I'm completely honest. And I think it's because I felt so supported in that, because it showed me like it's easy to have one person do something and that become your everything. And it's like, And then I'll be honest, for a couple of weeks after I found out, I was looking at everyone slightly differently. It's like, you take the piss out of me, that person does this, you know, that. And it's actually when I shared it and I was welling up and I felt safe welling up as well, that was nice. And I recognized, like, I feel fine crying. And then you come straight up to me, like, you gave me a big hug, you were like, I've got your back, mate, we're all here for you, you know. And I was like, and it's just nice having that. So that'd be the last time I cried. So the next question for me is, when you are feeling that, like, you know, down or numb, feeling those dark things, what sort of things do you do that actually helps you get through those hard times?
Exercise. I think if your mental health is if your physical health is well, so is your mental well-being. I think they're very closely connected. If you sit at home feeling sorry for yourself, if you eat crap, it's only going to make you worse. I think fresh air, exercise, and being around people that care about you and that you care about, that's what helps me. How about you?
I think just speaking to someone. I think sometimes though, I've always agreed with every word you've just said then, but sometimes you get in a situation where you can't even do that. You can't even clean your bedroom, you can't even go to the gym or anything, you just can't even, you don't want to step outside the house sometimes. So, but for me, like actually speaking to a family or friend, or I've never been to any counselling or anything like that, but was struggling earlier this year and I did speak to my mum. And like that was literally like just a massive weight off my shoulders, whereas, as you said, I just didn't want to be a burden to someone. In reality, like, people care about you a lot more than you'd ever know. And you know, that just took so much weight off, and then you can actually start rebuilding from that point, can't you? Once that weight's off your shoulder, I think.
Yeah. I think there's like the practical and the emotional, and it's like I always call it evening Jamie versus morning Jamie. The evening Jamie is like, yeah, my alarm's getting set for 5 and all of that. Morning Jamie's like, fuck off, yeah. And it's like, you know, like it sounds like what you're describing. I would describe that as depression. And I've never had that level person. I've had the numb feeling and all of that, but I've had it when my mom was just like, I'm like, go outside, get a walk. She was like, you don't get it, Jamie. She was like, I can't go out the house right now. And something that I did for her, and she was really grateful for it, is I drove there and then went out with her. And for her, that was like maybe a bit of safety from me and all of that. But yeah, I think like the practical things, like I always try to fall back to like 3 non-negotiables, which is how am I sleeping? And so that's always my first one, which for me is a really big one. So how much are you sleeping? Well, 2 hours is not enough. And it's like, right, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? And what's your movement like? And those 3 things. But like you say, sometimes the practicality, and I think sometimes it's when you're not feeling down, try to make a decision of when you will feel down. Because when you're feeling in that state, it's just like, fuck the world, fuck everyone, don't want to get out of bed. And it's like, I just want to be in bed all day, you know, whatever it is. And so it might be for you, your mum. And it's like, you just have a written out message that is saved for when you're in that deep place. And you go, I'm just going to copy and paste that. And so I'm going to paste it and then put my phone aside, knowing that you've done the minimum that you need to do to reach out to that person that's always going to be there. So I think that could be cool. So if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self about mental health, because I think the me of 10, 15 years ago maybe wouldn't take mental health too seriously at all. Like, I'd definitely be like, fucking man up. Get on with it, mate. Like, stop being a pussy, you know. And I would say things like that to myself all the time, like, get over it, mate. So I ain't gonna change, is it? What's the point sulking about it? So if you could go back 10, 15 years, what would you say to your younger self about mental health?
I think that's a great thing that you've just raised awareness to. I think there's such a lot of pressure for men to be a man, to be the provider, to man up, to be so emotionally stable all of the time. When in reality, we're all human, regardless of our gender. And it is difficult sometimes to be that person that people can just, like you said, put their head on your shoulder and have that comfort. Sometimes we need that as well. So I think it's the social stereotypes of men having to be that person and be that man is stopping men from talking about it, opening up about it, and therefore leading to all of these problems. So I think that if I could go back 10 years ago, I would say to myself, don't be shy, just speak to people and stop trying to be an alpha male. I think that's what I'd say. How about you?
Yeah, probably something the same really, and just I was probably like yourself, like probably pretty ignorant to it. Just thought it was just people being attention seeking or whatever. But I would probably just say to myself, don't bottle things up. I know it's pretty cliche, but talk to someone, and also make sure that like your non-negotiables aren't missed, like your gym routine or your sleeping, things like that, because as you say, it does have them little 1% drops. That's when you get in a hole, isn't it? Like if you're in the gym 3-4 times a week and sleeping better and eating well, like you will have down days, but you're so much more resilient to those hiccups and bumps in the road, aren't you? And you'd be able to build from it a lot easier.
How about yourself, Jamie?
If there were one line that I could say to myself 15 years ago, it'd be drop your ego. I spent...
Good luck.
Yeah, no, but genuine, and I still have ego, of course. I think a bit of ego is good, but I had so much ego that I'd spend so much time trying to impress people that I'm not even sure I liked. And it's like, if I think about the cool kid at school, they were a twat. They were an absolute arsehole, but they were cool, so I wanted to be around them. You know, it's like, sometimes you do that when you're younger. You spend so much time trying to impress people that probably won't even be in your life in 5 years. So drop your ego and just realize that half the people you're trying to impress probably won't even remember your name in 10 years. And it's like, and that's a really freeing feeling. It's like, the more aligned you can be to yourself and being the best version of yourself, I think mental health shows up differently. It's still going to be present, but it's real. And it's like, it's not because you're living a lie of who you are. And I think I did that when I was younger, driven by ego. So yeah, drop the ego, I would say. So I want to talk about mental health in the workplace a little bit. So I think as a leader, it's really important for me to show that vulnerability. And I've actually noticed that my relationships in the office have increased dramatically by showing the true me a little bit more, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. So, but also cultivating an open environment, a culture around that. So I know the things that we do as a business, but it's really interesting because I don't know if they have the impact. So I guess what I'd like to ask you is, first of all, how do you balance work life from a mental health perspective? What sort of activities do you do? And then it'll be interesting, like, what could the company do, and companies in general, to create a culture where mental health is more focused on? So maybe I've asked too much there, but we'll go through it. So first of all, the balance on there, like how do you balance your mental health with work, home, and things like that? Or is it a nothing for you?
I think having a routine is very important. If you don't have a routine, whether that's inside of work or outside of work, you struggle to stay on the right path, and I think sometimes that can affect us as well. So for example, if all you do is focus on work, even you take it home, maybe you work until 2 or 3 a.m. sometimes, like yourself, you catch yourself doing that quite a lot, that can then have a negative impact on many things. For example, sleep, how much you eat the next day, if you go up and wake up at the gym at 5 a.m. or whether you snooze it. So I think a routine is, for me, is the most important to have the work-life balance. And just learning when to switch off as well. Obviously it's important in business and in businesses such as these to work outside of work when we need to pick up that important phone call, but sometimes just switching off, leaving the phone in the office and disconnecting completely and spend time with family.
I sort of think the main things that I do to sort of manage my stress levels at work is to sort of time block my day, so making sure that I'm getting through everything I need to get through each day, and I try and do my most difficult conversations early on in the morning. So once I know I've done that, then any anxiety. Sometimes I have a tendency to leave them difficult conversations, push them back, so then you're just worrying about them all day, and that's taking up mental space in your head, and it's just not allowing you to be as efficient as possible. So if you try and have those difficult conversations in the morning, then you've got like a bit of an easier day then, because you can just crack on with the rest of your work, which I find a bit easier. And then also making sure, obviously with the dark mornings and evenings, making sure I get out on my lunch, if we're going for a walk or sitting outside, going to the shop and things like that. Just leave my phone inside and letting myself have a good hour to sort of detach and relax a little bit, really.
Do you think the company does enough to support mental health here?
Definitely. Yeah, we have a company that we can reach out to. Do we still have that, by the way? I've never used it personally, but it's like a free counselling. I think you get 5 free counselling sessions here. So I think it's a great environment to speak to people anyway. We are very focused here at Aspire on being a family. So I think everyone, especially intra-team, so inside of their own teams, feel that they can speak with each other about their mental health. But besides that, I think it's just a really relaxed environment here where everyone gets along, and apart from, you know, your daily tasks that you get stressed with, the environment here doesn't really stress people out to an extent. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
I'd also go back more of like a structural thing of like the management team that are in place. That I know definitely my manager, if he can send something that's not right, he'll literally go, right, Jack, should we go for coffee, just me and you, or which is more important to me than, you know, probably anything else that can be done, is like actually making sure they've got the right, you know, people person in place to be looking after the people. And I feel like I can tell him things that maybe I don't want to speak to other people about, and then we can try and nip it in the bud, really, get something resolved if I'm upset about something personal or within work, which I think helps me quite a lot.
I've got a fact that says work-related stress is a major contributor to poor mental health for men. 77% of men report, this is in the UK, report feeling stressed due to work and financial pressures. And so if you think about the time that you're awake, a majority of your time is in work. And let's face it, work isn't just when you're here, especially in an office. It's like when you're driving to work, you're thinking, what do I need to do today? Oh shit, I've got that complaint call to deal with, or I know I've got this. You leave in the evening, oh, I hope that deal closes tomorrow. And so like, I think it's so important. I think companies in general should try and do more and more to advocate for these things and talk openly about it. I'd like to thank both of you guys for doing this, because I think it's quite a vulnerable thing to talk about, and especially with 3 cameras looking at you and all of that. And I really hope by you being here, you maybe attract somebody to watch the video that maybe wouldn't have with just me. And I think it's important, whether this gets 1,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 views, it could impact one person and really change their life. So no, really thank you for your time, guys. And I think it would be really cool to take some of those ideas forward as well. So I hope that's been helpful, guys. If anyone does struggle with anything, man, woman, doesn't matter, feel free to get in touch. You can directly message me on Instagram, Jamie York Official. But talk to people in your circle, talk to professionals, and it's okay to not be okay.